This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have a guest that has burst onto the fantasy football scene of late. You may have seen him on YouTube shows, co-hosting shows such as Dynasty Hour or Dynasty Degens. He's a contributor and video editor at Footballguys now. So it's Jagger. Welcome to the podcast, my man.
I am happy to be here.
It's awesome to see everything you've been doing. I'm suddenly seeing your work everywhere, so it's fun to have you on and help you. I can share your story.
Awesome. And I gotta say, man, you have one of the coolest sets around. Like that. That looks like you're like an NFL insider with that stuff, man. You make me want to change like up my game a little bit.
Hey, anything I do to inspire somebody, I'll take it. But no, it's fun. Obviously, I love this game of fantasy football, and I love the community. I love to share it, share the passion for fantasy, and it starts with stuff like this. Meeting people like you, getting to know people behind the scenes a little bit better. So where did it all begin for you when it comes to just a passion for sports?
Well, for starters, I grew up in the South, so it's like you love football or you like don't talk about your hate for football or something like that. So it's like it's kind of like in my blood. That's all we have in Oklahoma and Arkansas, especially in SEC country, if you're into football or whatnot. And then of course, like playing, because again, if you're in the South, you either you love football, and then if you have the ability, you need to be playing football. So I started football actually particularly late, like in high school, and I was already kind of a nerd by then because I was in like band. And then like my freshman and sophomore year, I had this crazy growth spurt, put on a lot of muscle. Then the coach was like, "You should play football." So I was like a Disney Channel original movie, kind of like High School Musical style. Like I would play football, then halftime, throw the pads off, throw on a tuba, and then now we're here. I could, out of all things, I figured the tuba would get me further than football would, but it's unconventional.
Oh, I love it. No, that's awesome. So what were your favorite teams growing up? Favorite players growing up?
My favorite team was the Patriots, and I always joke that you shouldn't pick your team in middle school because like now that I know about like Boston, like I kind of just like hate Boston in general. So so and like I probably like wouldn't be a Patriots fan if I could like go back in time and be like, hey man, I know you really like Randy Moss, and that's the genesis of it. I was a huge Randy Moss fan. I wanted to be Randy Moss, and then turns out I never grew taller than 5'10", and then I grew wide and jacked, and I played running back. So like I would never be Randy Moss. So.
I love it. That is funny. You pick a team in junior high. Obviously, I'm sure they're at a peak, right? And then you don't think like ahead, like what happens when things die down a little bit. Obviously, the Patriots had an amazing run, but that's not the average case. That's funny. So Randy Moss and the Patriots were your guys, your team, and your guy from the Arkansas area. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up on the border of Arkansas and Oklahoma, and like for
Okay.
college, I'm actually an Arkansas fan, but I went to school in Oklahoma on the Oklahoma side, and that made things like rough, because like Arkansas has been terrible my entire life, and then you got like a bunch of OU fans.
You made the wrong choice again, right?
Yeah, exactly. I chose poorly.
That's funny. So when did you discover fantasy football and fantasy sports?
After high school, and apparently this is a lot of people's stories for it. Like I had my NFL.com league, and me and my friends did it after high school because like we don't have sports anymore. How do we move on with our lives? So it like fantasy kind of happened there, and then I was just a casual player up until like the last like couple of years. I didn't even play Dynasty up until like 5 years ago, and that's like my main niche. That's my jam over redraft or whatnot.
And then when you first started, when you discovered fantasy, do you remember the content that you consumed? Some of the people that you enjoy their content?
The usual. I used to watch Matthew Berry every Sunday on ESPN, and then make lots of last minute decisions on the one, maybe two leagues that I had, and a little bit fantasy pros, but I never consumed that much content. besides like I guess like the regular mainstream, like looking at the ESPN.com blurbs. It's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
this blurb says this guy sucks, so he sucks.
What do you enjoy the most about playing the game of fantasy?
Uh, the pure adrenaline from heartbreak and excitement. Like they this has been since the beginning of time why we gamble or do or anything like horse racing or something like that. It's that. And then moreover, I'm a big strategy guy, and I mean that like not even just a sense of like fantasy. I love chess. I love like numbers and thinking anything that can use my brain, and like fantasy is like another excuse to do that, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. It's like, again, it's like D&D for football, so
Yeah, that's a good example. So when it comes to your home leagues, is like, do you have one league that's been around the longest? It's like your main primary league.
my home redraft league, I'm gonna be honest, like this is gonna be a super hot take and unpopular opinion. um I quit my redraft home league because like it was one of those things where like only like four of us cared, and then
Yeah.
we were filling in like six other people, and then it kind of like it was always just the same four guys competing, and if you had a bad draft, like you couldn't trade because no one was like active or anything like
Yeah.
that. But like the Gauntlet is like my home dynasty league, and that's been going for like 5 or 6 seasons now. And what that was like three redraft leagues in like the same area where I grew up in, like around Fort Smith, Arkansas. Is like three home leagues collapsed. I'm like, well, what do we do now? And I'm like, well, I'll
Okay.
commission something, but I don't care about redraft. Why don't we make this super league? And that's where it got the name, the Gauntlet. So that's like been around for a little bit now, and that's like the league I care about and I run, and I hope I win because I've been running it, and like now I'm a professional, and they roast me in there that I can't win it. So
I love it. No, that's good. You bring up a couple good points. Like one, if you got a home league that's just not thriving, you either got to do things to make it better,
Mhm.
right? To improve it. Find a commissioner that can rally, a league together, or you need a balance. Like, it's not fun to play in a league that's not active and engaged.
Yeah.
And if that league doesn't have the potential, it's okay to step away and start something fresh. And then I like that bringing everyone knows people that play the game. So
Yep.
locally, if you can bring people together from other leagues, the most passionate people around in those leagues together, you can create something special. And it sounds like that's what you did with the Gauntlet League. I like that.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you, do you guys do live drafts? I know it's
No,
Dynasty. You got rookie draft.
No, because I'm the only one who doesn't live in Arkansas now. Like I live in
Okay.
Colorado, so
Okay.
like we can't really do that. And even then, like a lot of my friends kind of live like apart. Like I have one guy lives in like Stillwater because like he went to college at Oklahoma State, so he still lives around the area there. So we don't do that. So like I haven't had a live draft probably 5 or 6 years. So like I don't even remember the warmth of like like a live draft or anything like that. Like with the like we used to have like a board, like the
Yeah.
official board where you put like stickers and whatnot on there. I haven't done that in a long time. So like next year for Scott Fish, I want to make a point to do like the Scott Fish live draft in Denver and go and do that. Cause like I don't have an opinion on it because it's like been so long, like I feel like
Sure.
Gollum. I've like Gollum, like I've been in the cave, like I've even forgot my own name, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm biased, but I think that's a huge part of the fantasy experience. So getting into a live SFB draft, that definitely brings the juices of that
Mhm.
live draft. That'll bring some memories or create some more like inspiration for you for other leagues. But I'm sure you're involved in like some industry leagues too. Is there
Mhm.
one person that's like your biggest rival in all the leagues that you play? Like the one person where when you beat them, it feels the best, or if you lose, it hits you the most.
To go back to my home league, like this guy, like, and I'm gonna send him this pod to make him listen, because like I'm gonna give him his respect. I'm gonna give him his flowers right here. Just the home league guy, Josh Sizemore. I've played with this guy for 10 years. I've only known him through fantasy because, like, again, like how the gauntlet happened is like we had what was called like the Fort Smith restaurant leagues. So like all of us bartenders and like servers who worked at like literally Chili's, Red Lobster, like it's all in like one strip that like was near an airport where it's nothing but franchises and like knowing the locals like actually eat there. We all had a league there, and this dude, he's like the trash talker supreme. When every time I beat him, it matters to no one but me, but like I go to sleep with a smile on my face. So
I love it. take that, buddy. I love it. So when it comes to, I know obviously you love Dynasty. Like, what are your favorite settings, formats in fantasy?
now, man, I got a little taste of IDP, and I
Okay.
want more. I'm not even a particularly good IDP league because they're running individual defenses and individual defensive players at the same time. So it's like pretty bizarre, but like that's like a new favorite. And then I'm really into like the Scott Fish settings this year. That's like my jam going forward. I love the points per carry. You can adjust that to what you want, and it gives you a look like some more levers to pull. And like your grinder running backs that everyone hates because like, well, they don't catch passes and blah 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 blah. So
Yeah.
it gives you like a little bit more like leverage in that sense. So I'm really into that. And then I know this is crazy, but again, in my home leagues, like the at least 2 leagues I'm in that I run, I'm a psychopath and I make people play with kickers. They're like, it's just too much variance. And I'm like, exactly, wild card, baby.
Yeah. No, it's true. Obviously, there's kind of a movement to ban kickers, but there's definitely people out there that are like, hey, kickers are people too, and
Yep.
you're right. It is a wild card, and the more wild cards in a fantasy league, the better. Unless you're
Mhm.
losing, then then you can complain about it. But I love it. So now, obviously, you've started to create content in fantasy. When did that begin? When were you inspired? What inspired you to start creating content in fantasy?
Like most people, it seems like the big boom was during COVID, where everyone like dove into their habits. I got like, and what's weird for me is like fantasy is like kind of special because it like COVID was like, and this isn't a special thing for me, this situation, but I got like laid off. It was like a bad time. So like I went from like a cushy office job as like an SEO guy, house cat, to like landscaping at that point, which I'm not. I grew up in the South, like I do outside work, and that's why I know that I don't want to do it, but I had to do it to pay the bills. And then I had a buddy that was like, "Hey, do you want to try Dynasty?" And I'm like, "For sure." And that was like the gateway drug. Then I joined like 10 Dynasty leagues, and I met one of the owners at Dynasty Football Factory just through a league, and he's like, "Hey, man, you like really know your stuff." Because I'm the guy in like the sleeper group chat that's like, "Here's a 3-page paragraph that I wrote on this player," and then he's just like, do you want to get paid, 15-20 bucks an article to do that? And I'm like, well, I literally have nothing but time, like I could
Yeah.
like watch The Office again because I can't do anything, or I can do this. So it started there, and kind of it's one of those things where it just kind of snowballed, and here's where I'm at now. It doesn't even seem that long ago. So, and
Yeah.
I
No.
think that was like 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever COVID was. Yeah, that said that.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
All right. Tell me about Dynasty Hour and Dynasty Degens. Those shows you've been doing.
Dynasty Hour, I got pulled from TikTok on that. That was like a random thing. It's kind of serendipitous. Chuck Bass, I did a random interview with him, and I'm like, it was like one of those things when you do a pod with someone. I was like, that was amazing. And then I was starting to think, at the time, do I make a step and like do my own pod? Which that's something I didn't want. I didn't want to start another pod because there was like
Yeah.
too many pods at that point. I would rather go do it's like join someone else's pod or do something and help grow that. And that's weird to think that, but all of a sudden, Jason for Fantasy Sports Corp, he's like, "Hey, do you want to do a Dynasty show?" So I'm like, "Okay, whatever. I'll just go do this little meeting, jump on a StreamYard and see what's up." And then I was planning on doing something with Chuck anyway. And then Chuck popped up on the meeting, and that's how like Dynasty Hour. So I literally said I'm in. If Chuck said I'm in, like I didn't even think. And I know that's a bad way to do stuff, but like I don't really think about logistics sort of thing like that. So I like mentally checked out for the rest of the meeting to go like tinker with my lineups, and then we have Dynasty Hour and what that is now. And then Degens, Mike, fantasy nerd boy, if you know him as that. Most people call him nerd, but he's Mike to me. He started that, and then our friend JC had to like step down for family issues, or I think he got laid off. So like where he could record at was no longer viable, and he asked me to come on. And then I filled in for a while, and then I got really busy because like at the same time I had football guys coming in, and then we were like, well, I can't do like the Tuesday nights anymore, but everyone has like a start sit show. So then like for DJs under that umbrella, why don't we have like a start sit show that could be like a morning everyday lighthearted variety thing? And he's like, okay, well, who do you want? I was like, of course, my buddy Chuck Bass. So I pull him over, and then we have what's called like another fantasy show. I wanted, because like again, like I was like, there's too many pods. So like I was like, let's just call it another fantasy show where we just kind of get up on Sundays way too early and lament about other people's lineups. And I get to hang out and talk to my friends with DJs and help Mike grow something new as well. So
That's awesome. Now let's take a moment to talk about Chuck Bass, because that guy is funny.
yeah,
I didn't know him. I was at the Fantasy Football Expo this last year, and then all of a sudden I'm standing next to this guy, and it was just nonstop. Like I can't even describe it. Like he was so funny, and I couldn't like break a smile. Like I'm like, where's this guy coming from? This guy's amazing. And then I spent a little bit of time with him that weekend, and like that guy is hilarious. What a great guy to be a part of in this industry, huh?
yeah, I mean, that's what it is me and Chuck are both like fantasy funny guys, so like we get to be ourselves and riff off each other, and it just like it
Yeah.
kind of works, you know.
Yeah, I know. That's it's outstanding. He's I mean, I love that guy. He's great. But
Mm.
let's talk about your opportunity at Football Guys. How did that present? And tell me about the role that you've taken there.
um Again, fantasy football bailed me out, you know. After COVID, like that, especially around Denver and that area, what I did, like digital marketing, took a huge hit. So like no one was hiring or anything like that. So I was like, well, I can't landscape anymore because I just doesn't pay the bills. So I started contracting, and I did that for like almost 2 years, doing construction and contracting, and that's a brutal business. So I got laid off again, you know. And at this time, like I was making like TikToks and shorts and that, and I did something different that someone else didn't do. Because like I looked at like a lot of like the fantasy content and on TikTok, and not to sound bad, but I was like, this kind of like sucks because it was two things. People were trying to be TikTokers, you know, like you're doing like this trendy dancing and stuff like that, or they were just like too much fantasy and not TikTok. So I'm like, why don't you just have fun and do that? Have fun, make shorts, be funny, and not try to be like what the 12-year-olds are better at us. And, you
Yeah,
know, like let's
yeah,
do
yeah.
our own thing. So that's how I did that and started editing. Then I saw, you know, my buddy Alfredo Brown. He's just like, hey, Football Guys is looking for a video editor for shorts. And I'm like, I legit need a job. So I just hit him up, and he's like, hey, you know, sure. And it was kind of a match made in heaven, man. Like I got lucky and happened to be right place, right time, you know. The whole like when a door closes that opens a window, whatever cliche you could put in, that's happened to me for fantasy. So
And it's obviously it's been a good experience, I would imagine. And the people at
mm,
Football Guys are so great on so many different levels, right?
yes, I literally I couldn't be more blessed. Like I've never been happier, and that's like that's not me just, you know, running my mouth on a pod or being a company man. Like I legitimately couldn't be at a better place. So
It's awesome. So what do you enjoy most about creating content and what you're doing in the industry right now?
I know this is crazy. I love almost everything about making football content more than football, if that makes sense. Like I obsess over editing an opening title sequence. Like I know that sounds crazy, or end closer. And I know like we can't use copyright music, so I got to do all these crazy rules to do all the things that I can do with cinema and to making fantasy content. And I know that's incredibly stupid and a pretentious way to approach content, but like I said, I started out in band. Like I've been a performer most of my life. I've done band, I did stand-up comedy for a long time, and I went to college actually for film before I pivoted to marketing when I realized I was going down a path of poverty with you know by being a film major. So I'm like, oh cool, I get to use my film minor in this way. So I enjoy editing Dave Kluge and Alfredo Brown and making them funny and get to make jokes every day. I know that's crazy, but like it's a challenge because like yeah, I can make jokes about anything, but like I got to make it in this tiny, teeny box about fantasy football. That's like in a teeny, tiny box of niche, and that's like a fun challenge that has made me a better creative, a better writer. Along with like the football stuff is like almost like a secondary add-on that's like the cherry on top of everything because this other thing I was going to do anyway. So
No, that's cool. It sounds like, you have a, background with, you like creative expression, and this is a good
mm,
fit for you. That's outstanding. Let's talk a little bit about the fantasy football community. We've obviously talked about, Chuck Bass and some of the stuff you've done. The Fantasy Football Expo, is that something you plan on going to next year if you get a chance?
yeah, the only reason why I didn't go this year was straight up I was just broke. I just started with football guys and I was just like, well, I need to like pay the bills, whatever. So like next year I'll go, but like I plan on going to the expo and I know everyone's just like, well, why didn't you go? And I'm like, man, I feel sad, but like Canton, I live in Colorado, like Canton's far, buddy, I just so like to me to be able to meet the people that I talk to like this, like in person,
Yeah.
like I want to see how short Chuck Bass is in real life.
That's awesome. It's cool. I like it. A lot of people have gone, a couple times now, 2, 3 times now. So that first experience, it's amazing. So I think you're gonna love it when it comes to just meeting people coming to life in front of you. These, all these people from Twitter, X, or whatnot in the fantasy community. It's a special time. It's an incredible event. Something I think that you won't regret if you can get out there. But it's not easy. Canton's not easy. I come from Seattle, so it's just tricky.
Oh,
Getting
even
out there.
further.
Yeah, yeah. It's tricky getting out there, but well worth it if you can make that happen.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, obviously, I know that you're going to be going to the Football Guys retreat next month, which is pretty
Mm.
exciting. Are you looking forward to that?
Oh yeah, man. This is me and the missus are excited because she literally told me she's like, I don't want to sound bad, but I'm super excited you're taking a trip and leaving the house without me. So it's just because like now I work from home. I'm like a glorified house husband.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
just like she's like, please go to Vegas. Like go have fun, go do your stupid nerd stuff and like leave me and the
Perfect.
dogs by myself.
I love it. That is awesome. Let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll just throw out some questions. Just give me some answers that come to mind. What are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of fantasy sports and like what you described in like video content and whatnot?
It's writing for sure. Cause like what I discovered going to like film school or whatever is like I'm a good writer and like that's something that like I think is my best artistic medium. And on top of that, I love comic books. Like I'm a massive comic collector. Like behind me, I have original signed copies of Black Panther, stuff like that, and whatnot. So working to get comics developed and or deciding like before I was talking to you and went on a run, whatever. I'm looking at publishing to because I have like 3 IPs that I've made and I've went to comic conventions and like my problem is I can't draw and I'm particularly what's the correct word for it? I'm like a tiger mom and control freak. So the thought of having to work with someone else it's difficult. So I'm like, you know what? Like, why don't we do a novel? So like by, behind the screen or whatever, the pods or the football, I'm just a giant nerd. So like anything nerdy, Batman comics, that's what I do most of the time. So
Nice, nice. What's your favorite TV show of all time?
favorite TV show of all time. I Mad Men is up there. I'm just throwing these out there. Like, Mad Men's up there. I guess I have to pick one that's always sunny in Philadelphia because I
Okay.
joke like that's like kind of the basis of like my comedy and what I do things. And I feel like there's an It's Always Sunny quote for anything. Like basically I could talk like Bumblebee from Transformers with just quotes from It's Always Sunny and like keep it going. So
I love it. What's the last TV show that you binged?
I'm watching Modern Family right now. Like I always
Okay.
have like something on in the background, and Modern Family's up there. I'm a sucker for garbage television too because it's easy to watch. So like this terrible show on Bravo called Below Deck that my
Oh
girlfriend
yeah,
put on, and I sat down and watched like 6 seasons of on accident.
yeah,
That's up
yeah,
there.
yeah. Exactly. That's a good one. What's your favorite place to go on vacation?
Um, Mexico. I know that's cliche. Mexico's so easy, man. Like
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
so easy, especially specifically Puerto Vallarta over there. If you can make it there, it's really beautiful. Um, the food is like cheap. It's just paying for like your lodging and your flight. Everything else is incredibly cheap, and you don't have to worry. That's pretty. That's up there for me.
Nice, nice. What's the worst loss that you've experienced as a sports fan?
Easily the Giants Patriots Super Bowl where David
Yeah,
Tyree catches it.
yeah.
That's the helmet catch. Sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night sweaty, like Amy's like, "Babe, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "David Tyree," you know.
That's awesome. How about the best moment as a sports fan that you've experienced?
um, Easily, I still remember it. It's the Seattle Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl, that one, because I was like, I'd already started depressed drinking at that point. Like the last
Yeah,
drive started, I was like, "Bring me the bottle," and then, and then I remember I was at my buddy's house, and then the Malcolm Butler interception happened, and he had a like this was like we were in college, so my buddies lived in their grandpa's old trailer at the time there, so I literally did a lap full sprint on one end of the trailer all the way down screaming in excitement during that time because we had won. And like again, like you do the whole Tom Brady, like, you know, like that just happened thing. I remember, I'll never forget that one easily.
well, I mean that hurts because as a sports fan, I'm a Seahawks guy. I'm a Seattle guy, right? So
Yeah.
it's funny how sports are because your greatest moment that you can remember is my worst. So I won't hold it against you. I try to I try to tell myself that in order to kind of like provide some self therapy about that issue is that I got to watch Tom Brady win a Super Bowl. But
Mhm.
the truth is, I was actually at the game, in the corner of
Mhm.
the end zone, ready to celebrate. I mean, ready to experience the greatest experience I've ever had,
Mhm.
and that happened. So I'm happy for you. Like,
Oh man. Brutal.
it is brutal, but sports, that's what it is, right? It's you
Mhm.
win some, you lose some. My favorite moments, your least favorite moment is just how it works. So, gotta love sports for that. What's your all time favorite movie?
All-time favorite movie, man. You know what? I read this question and I'm like, what I'm gonna answer? Because like Pulp Fiction's up there for me. It's an excellent movie about writing dialogue, and that like even dialogue it's about seemingly nothing that doesn't move a plot can be engaging. And then I know this is crazy, but I love Watchmen too because I think out of comic adaptations, it's one of the best. I know people hate Zack Snyder, but I'm also like I love depressing stuff, and Watchmen's like really like sad. It doesn't end well and beats a lot of cliches for comics. So even as a film, I really enjoy it, and I use that movie as like a coping mechanism. If like something bad happens in the world, I'm like, I gotta watch Watchmen. And then like Amy, she's like, why do you watch it? I'm like, I don't know, because like it's like a discomfort film, like kind of like Hereditary too, where you have these films that make you feel good, but like sometimes I just want something that makes me feel bad too when I'm feeling bad. And I know that's like an odd thing to say, but I feel like the discomfort movie is underrated and something that we all need.
Okay, so next time I think about not getting that repeat and Malcolm Butler, and I go down that path, I need to go watch that movie.
Yeah, exactly. Make yourself feel bad. It's kind of like Major Pain, where he's just like, you're like, you want
Oh,
me to not feel about that leg anymore? And then he snaps your pinky. Like, that's what you're doing emotionally by watching a different movie.
oh, that's good. All right, so for this season in the NFL, who's winning the Super Bowl? Who you putting in the NFC and the AFC getting to the Super Bowl, and who wins it all?
49ers, it's hard to say that. I know that's like the cliche answer. I wouldn't say cliche. I mean, like, it's hard to see anyone beating them right now. Then the AFC is just like a nightmare. I don't know what, why, I don't know.
No,
Like,
nobody wants to win it, right?
That's what it feels like. I was like,
Yeah.
like the Bills and Chiefs game. I'm like, this will
Oh,
tell me who's the top dog. And like that, watching that game, it's like it's like you said, who doesn't want to win the AFC? That's what it felt like as a race. I'm gonna put the Ravens in there because they're the only
okay.
team I feel like I've been
Yeah,
consistent, and they have all the tools to win. So I'll
that's
put the
good.
Ravens up there.
And that's a team that you could see like sneak into the Super Bowl, be the underdog, but since they're so so
Mm,
sound fundamentally, like
mm.
I mean that Ravens Niners rematch from what, like probably 2000, I don't know, 13 or 12 or
It's like,
something like that. Um,
yeah, been a minute.
that would be interesting. I like that. I like that take. I've heard some like Miami, maybe getting through. But you're right with the Chiefs and the Bills. It's like a couple years ago, if you would have projected that game, like you'd have said, okay, that's the game of the year, right? And
Hmm.
wow, yeah, it's things have changed quick. So hopefully it's a good Super Bowl. As a Seahawks fan, hopefully it's not the Niners, but they do look real good.
Yeah.
So obviously it's fantasy football playoff season. Some people are going to be crowned champions in just a couple of weeks. So when it comes to the rosters of championship fantasy squads, what quarterback do you think will be rostered the most on a fantasy football championship team?
Probably Brock Purdy. I know that's crazy because like if you, and this is me having a redraft standpoint, if you think about how the draft fell for those people, like if you had like Brock Purdy as your QB1 or I would even say Lamar Jackson's probably up there, like you probably had value at other positions like tight end, wide receiver, and you didn't draft like Patrick Mahomes, who's been disappointing, or
Yeah,
like Josh Allen's been like fine from a fantasy standpoint. Like people, we put these players up on pedestals and like, well, he's only given me 22 points per game. It's just
yeah.
that's kind of where we're at. But I think Brock Purdy is a quote unquote league winner when you consider value.
All right. How about a running back? Do you think it's going to be on the most fantasy championship teams?
Rashad White.
Okay.
That it
All
has
right.
to be Rashad White. I know that because like three of my best rosters have Rashad White because I was
Yeah.
just like, oh man, Rashad White's my RB2. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, Rashad White's my RB2. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. How about a wide receiver?
Brandon Ayuk.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Because that's
good
another
pairing with.
and
Yeah.
yeah, another Brandon Ayuk or DJ Moore, because those are two where I told everyone the value that you're getting for wide, like some cases DJ Moore was a low end wide receiver too,
Yeah.
because everyone was afraid about volume. Those are the two guys I think that you have two wide receiver ones on a lot of rosters that have Ayuk and DJ Moore, or even you faded wide receiver and you got lucky and you still got a wide receiver one. So
Yeah, no, those are good names for sure. How about a tight end? You think it's going to be on the most fantasy championship rosters?
I'll give you two. And you already know it's Sam Laporta or Trey McBride. Those two right there are gonna carry a lot of teams. 'Cause I know Trey McBride, like I tell everyone there's like the taxi squad for Dynasty. I call it the tight end squad. You use a taxi squad to throw a tight end that you know is not gonna do anything for like 2 years, and you just hope, and then you like rinse, wash, and repeat. And then Trey McBride coming to life on several rosters for me has been
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. And it's not a surprise if you do. If you just get him in dynasty and like you said, put him on the bench and wait for him to come to life. And he certainly has. And you're right, all those guys, great values. I think the key with all the players that you named are just the values that you got there. So
Mhm.
hopefully there's fantasy rosters out there with those players on them, and you're raising championship trophies at the end of the year.
Mhm.
So as for your journey in the industry, I'm sure it's been a fun ride. Who are there people that really have had a huge impact on you? Can you name some of the people that have really influenced you along the way?
Yeah, um, Willie Beeman over at DFF and Michael Romero, like they gave me my first start, so and my first chance. So like for them, like I can't ever forget that. And then again, Kevin Coleman specifically, like not just football guys. He's a guy who saw me first and like really helped boost me. and he gives me advice all the time. And then after that, again, Alfredo Brown, he gave me like my first chance with Football Guys, and that like gave me where I have a position that a lot of people don't, where I work and like the, pay my bills with fantasy football money, and that's the dream, and they help me live that every day. So
That's awesome. What are you most grateful for at this time?
I said this other day, and I still feel grateful. And again, I sound like a company man. It's Football Guys, man. Like I gotta like for being like in a bad spot that I was like 2 years ago, even like a year ago. I even have to say again, like I went through 2 layoffs that like I've never worked at a place that genuinely cared about me. I've had places that obviously they don't want you to be homeless. They don't want this, but like say you had a problem, a lot of it's like, we're sorry about that, man. Good luck. And then they're trying to replace you. But, you know, anyone who's ever met Joe Bryant, like you have, like that, they don't make them on trees. And, being blessed to work with him, I couldn't be more thankful.
I love it. What advice do you have for people that are looking to get more involved in the fantasy industry?
Worry about yourself more than you worry about other people, and that'll get you further. A lot of what I feel like has been well for me is I've tried to, I wouldn't say intentionally be different, but I've tried to do what I do best and use that to my strengths. Like I am funny. So like, and I know this is crazy, but like a lot of people are smart about fantasy football. Like we look at hours of like data and charts and film and all this, like all of us are smart, but like how do you package your content to make it stand out from someone else's? Because like anyone could have told you that like Brandon Ayuk was probably a value or DJ Moore, but like I made a short that was like a 1 minute stand-up set essentially of reason why. And that is what I think more people don't do enough. They say someone's doing this, or it's like I'm not I'm not doing as well as this person, so maybe I should quit. And, a lot of that is worrying about other people, and that can go down to like your fantasy team. You can't stop other teams from like scoring fantasy points, so just kind of worry about making your own roster good and like take that all the way into your content. So
Great advice for sure. Well, Jagger, is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to share before we close things out on this episode?
No, not that I could think of off the top of my head, man. It was a pleasure that you asked me questions about me and not about football. So it was new experience.
For sure. No, it's a pleasure. I love getting to know people in this industry. It's an amazing industry. So many lives get impacted within the community. So many relationships get formed, and so it's fun to share personalities with others and see what happens. Tell the listeners, the viewers, where they can find you.
Always on Football Guys. I share most of my stuff on Twitter. We got some great things going in the off season, and I'll get to do a little bit more with them. Always go follow us on Dynasty Degens. There's a lot of stuff open over there, and then there's Dynasty Hour every Wednesday. So
there you go. Follow Jagger. Make sure you're doing it. He's an up and comer. Definitely doing a lot of great things in the space. Pleasure to have you on here, and look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.